Wisconsin's population is growing, but the source of that growth may surprise you. We're not having a baby boom. A new report from the Wisconsin Policy Forum found our population is up because more people are moving to Wisconsin from other states and other countries. Wisconsin had more people migrate into the state over the past 3 years than in the past 2 decades, positioning Wisconsin for population and economic growth. Why are people coming to Wisconsin? And why are we likely to still see an increase given changes at the federal level to curb migration into the United States? Joining us is the author of the Wisconsin Policy Forum report, Mark Sommerhauser. Mark, thanks so much for being with us.
With you, Denise. Thank you for having me.
This is really a dynamic shift over how Wisconsin's population has been growing. Why did the Wisconsin Policy Forum decide to take on this particular bit of research?
Yeah, so the forum does research on a number of topics, and one of the things that we have delved into from time to time is sort of some of the big demographic trends that our state sees. And, this was something that we wanted to, it had been a while since we'd really done anything on demographic trends in the state. And we were curious to know, in part, how the sort of large national increase in immigration that we saw kind of during the Biden administration was affecting our state. The U.S. Census Bureau was the prime source of data that we use for our analysis. They obviously track both state level population from year to year, but also there's some of these figures around net migration that are kind of the basis for our analysis. So that was kind of what we relied on to try to look at how these national trends are kind of playing out within Wisconsin.
So two decades ago, Wisconsin's growth was really primarily driven by that balance of having more births than deaths. That has really shifted over the past couple of years. What are we seeing and where are people coming from?
Very dramatic shift, no question about that. Yeah, as we look back to the aughts and even much of the 2010s, the vast majority of our population growth in each year was driven by, as you said, what we call natural change, which is essentially just births minus deaths in a given year. And that started to change, I would say, kind of in the mid 2010s, late 2010s. And then post-pandemic really flips around even more dramatically to kind of the opposite scenario where we're seeing only very modest, very small amounts of population growths from births. But within the last 3 years, our net migration, so the net of people, obviously in any given year, we have some people leave our state and some people enter. Net migration is just how that all nets out, whether we have more people entering our state than leaving. The last few years, we have had significantly more people entering our state than leaving. And as you said, some of those folks coming from other states and some coming from other countries.
What does that breakdown look like when we look at the people who are coming here? How many are coming from other states and how many are coming from outside the United States?
So again, this is the numbers that we cite in our report are all based on U.S. Census Bureau estimates. We see our total population growth for the most recent year for which we have data, which was the 2024. So that would have been the 12-month period going through June 30th of 2024, as opposed to the calendar year. We saw our states was estimated to have grown by about 30,000 residents, a little more than that, about 30,500 residents in that 12-month period. And the vast majority of that actually was estimated to have come from international migration, about 22,000 of those individuals having come from international migration, about 6,000 of them coming from what we call domestic migration, which just means coming from one of the other U.S. states. And then only about 2,000 of that remaining 2,000 of the 30,500 figure, only about 2,000 coming from actual births within the state. So really, the smallest chunk of that total coming from natural change.
We take a look at Wisconsin and Wisconsin's economy. Obviously, people need workers. If we are not having workers or eventual workers being born in Wisconsin, and people are coming in from outside of the state, how important is that influx of folks to employers being able to have people working their companies so we can see our economy grow?
Yeah, I think there's no question that our state needs workers. Given the demographic trends, given the birth rate that we have in the state, and as well as the aging of the baby boom generation, this very large generational cohort that for many years was kind of the backbone of our labor force, is of course now reaching retirement age. And so we have seen for several years now in Wisconsin a declining, even though our state's overall population is increasing, our working age population has been declining in Wisconsin for several years, due primarily to the aging of the baby boom generation. And, there's multiple ways that we can, have new workers potentially come into the pipeline here. Births have always been one way, right? And we just have not seen as many of those in recent years. So then that kind of leaves people coming in here from other states. And again, we did actually see, or from other countries, we did see some people coming in here domestically. But again, in these recent years, the international migration was the bigger piece of that.
So international migration is playing a big piece in our population growth, access that employers have for folks to work at their companies. We're also at a point right now where national policy is really trying to cut back on immigration. If we don't have those workers and those folks coming in from other countries, what kind of impact does that potentially have on our economy?
Yeah, it's difficult to predict because we don't know the extent to which we're going to see a decline in international migration. But in our report, we say that we feel like it's safe to predict that there will be a decline, and probably a very substantial one. I think, that there's definitely going to be an impact to our labor force and to our employers if we don't continue to see folks coming from internationally. There still will be an opportunity to entice people to move here from other states, as it has been happening in the last few years, and that very well could continue. But our state is, like most Midwestern states, been in sort of a slow growth trajectory for a while. We've been consistently gaining population from year to year, but not in very large amounts. And so we're a little closer, especially as compared to some of the states in the South and West that are seeing much more robust population growth. We have a little bit less of a margin to keep from tipping over into a population stagnation or population decline scenario. And if we end up going down that road, I think there would be definite economic consequences for our state if we start to actually decrease in population. There would be some definite impacts, I think, that will be felt throughout the state.
Mark, thanks so much for being with us. It is a fascinating report, and it certainly has the potential to have a real impact on what our state looks like and what we're doing over the next decade.
All right. Well, glad to discuss it with you, Denise. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you want to read the report, visit the Wisconsin Policy Forum website. Coming up, is it your imagination or are your seasonal allergies lasting longer? Stay with us to find out.